Good afternoon, everyone. We had rather a harrowing drive up from Victoria. Not that there was any accidents or anything, but just a lot of traffic. But I'm very happy to be here today. I struggled with the theme, crimes of the heart, because I could only think of, well, crimes of the heart. You asked for it. Long ago, there was a miller, and he had a beautiful daughter named Mary. He had high hopes for her that she would marry beyond her station, and he decided to keep his eye out for suitable suitors. You know, he turned away many people, many men who worked in the village. He just thought there would be something better. He wanted his daughter to have money and to be comfortable and not to be struggling and working so hard as he had. Well, one day, a man came to his house and asked for Mary's hand in marriage. And this man appeared to be wealthy. The way he was dressed, the way he came with a horse and carriage. And he couldn't see any reason why not. And so Mary became betrothed to this, her future bridegroom. Now, Mary didn't feel comfortable with this man. She felt a certain recoil from him, and almost horror, but she couldn't pinpoint it. She couldn't really think of a reason to tell her father. And so the courtship went on, and he came and visited her many times. But one day he said to her, "Mary, my love, you have never visited me at my house." And Mary had been dreading this day. So she said, "Well, I don't know where you live," which seemed like kind of a feeble excuse. And of course he had an answer for that. "Ah, but I will show you where I live. I have a large house, a big mansion in the forest, and I would like you to come on Sunday. I've invited guests, so all you have to do is come by yourself. I will make the way clear for you. I will sprinkle ashes from here to my house so you won't have any trouble finding my house." And Sunday came, and Mary set out, and there was the trail of ashes. But she didn't want to leave anything to chance, and so she had filled her pockets with dried peas and lentils. And she set out into the forest. It was a beautiful day, the sun was shining, the birds were cheeping. But as she went deeper and deeper into the forest, she couldn't help but feel slightly ominous. However, she came to the house. There it was in a clearing, a beautiful mansion. There didn't seem to be anyone around. She approached, she knocked on the door. There was no answer. But her curiosity was now piqued, and she thought, well, if no one's home, maybe I can go in and explore the house and just see what my future home is like. So she tried the door, and it opened. She went in, and there wasn't anyone around, but a voice came out of nowhere saying, "Go home, young bride, go home. This is a house of murderers." Mary thought, what is going on? And then she heard it again. "Go home, young bride, go home. To this house, murderers will come." And then she saw a bird cage in the corner. It was only the bird. It was only the bird. And so she decided to explore the house. She walked all the way up the stairs, checked all the rooms, They were beautifully furnished. Everything looked normal, but still no one. So then she decided to descend to the cellar. And so down she went. It was dark, and she started to hear some noises down there. And she was quite pleased to see an old woman down there. But it was kind of mysterious. She was tending a fire over which was a large cauldron filled with steaming water. And when the young woman saw her, she shook her head and said, "Who are you? Who are you? What are you doing here?" "Well," said Mary, "I'm here to meet my bridegroom. Is he here?" The old woman shook her head and said, "No, no, you mustn't come. You mustn't come. You must go. You must go. This is a house of murderers." But then she quickly changed her mind and said, "No, it's too late. It's too late. I'll hide you. I'll hide you. But don't move. Don't move." And she hid her behind some wine casks in the corner. And she said, "Soon your bridegroom will be arriving with a band of robbers. And well, you will see what you will see." And soon after that, there was a lot of noise outside of people arriving, horses, carriages. She could hear a lot of voices, and she sounded like she could hear a woman as well. And soon the door was opened, and these men all came in, and they started coming down the stairs. They were all drunk and shouting, and they were dragging with them a young woman, dragging her down the stairs. Mary crouched behind the casks, and her heart went thump, thump, thump. She dared not move, dared not breathe. There was too much noise. No one noticed her. And the young woman, they dragged her literally by her hair and sat her at a table. And there they poured her 3 glasses of wine, 1 red, 1 white, and 1 yellow. And they pushed them toward her and forced her to drink them, one after the other. And by the time she finished the glass of the yellow wine, it was too much for her, and her heart gave out, and she fell on the floor dead. But that wasn't the worst of it. From there, they proceeded to strip off her fine clothes, and they laid her out on the table, and they chopped her up, ready to put her into the pot. They sprinkled salt on her. Mary was aghast. One of these men was her bridegroom. Then one of the men noticed a gold ring on the young woman's finger, on her hand. He tried to get it off, but it was stuck. And so he took a hatchet and he lopped off that finger. And the finger just went chop, whoosh, and flew off into the corner and landed right in Mary's lap. And so, of course, the man proceeded to try and find it. And he brought a candle over there and started poking around. The old woman said, "Oh, no, don't worry about that now. Let's eat first. That finger will be fine there until the morning. Look for it in the morning." And all the men were like, "Oh yeah, for sure, let's eat now." So they proceeded with their horrible task, which I won't describe. And the old woman, she took a sleeping potion and put it into their wine, because she had never had the chance of escaping from this place. She was too afraid to do it by herself, but she thought and hoped that she and young Mary could escape later. And sure enough, all the robbers soon were snoring, slumped all over the floor, asleep from the potion and the wine. So the old woman said to Mary, come out now. Mary could hardly move. She was shaking. She was paralyzed with fear. But the woman said, "I will help you to escape. Let us go now." And so she had to tiptoe between all the robbers. She was terrified, but eventually they made their way out into the moonlight. And of course, all the ashes had blown away. So Mary began to look for the peas and lentils that she had sprinkled along the way. And believe it or not, they had started to sprout. So they were firmly in place. And she and the old woman were able to make their way back to Mary's house. And by this time, it was almost the morning. The old woman decided to go on further. She wanted to get as far away from those robbers as she could and their terrible, murderous den. Now, I'm sure you can all imagine the horror that Mary had experienced. But we're just going to move ahead now to the wedding. All the plans were made. The guests were invited. The feast was planned. And the day of the wedding came when Mary was to be married to the robber bridegroom. All the guests had assembled. The bridegroom was there. The feast was underway. Everyone was sitting around telling stories. And at last, the robber bridegroom turned to his young bride and said, "Mary, my love, do you have a story to tell?" Mary said, "Very well, I will tell a story. This is a dream I had," she said. "One day, I was walking in the forest, in the deep, dark forest. And then I came upon a mansion in the woods. I went up the stairs. I knocked on the door. There was no answer. I opened the door and I went in. There was no one there. But then I heard a voice saying, 'Go home, young bride, go home. To a house of murderers you have come.' The bridegroom said, 'But my love, it was but a dream.' 'Yes,' said Mary. I then heard the voice again. 'Go home, young bride, go home. To a house of murderers you have come.' But it was just a bird in a cage. 'Yes,' said the bridegroom, 'it was but a dream.' 'Well then,' she said, 'I explored the house. I could find no one. But then I went downstairs to the cellar and I met an old woman by a cauldron of boiling water. And she said, "What are you here for?" And I said, "I'm here to meet my bridegroom." And the bridegroom said, "But my love, it was but a dream." "Yes," she said, "it was a dream. It was a dream." And then the old woman said, "You must hide now. You must hide because they're coming. They're coming soon. Quickly, quickly." And she hid me in the corner behind the wine casks. And soon there was a lot of noise and all these people came, all these men came, and they were dragging a young woman by her hair, and they seated her at the table, and they made her drink 3 glasses of wine, red, white, yellow. It was too much for her. Her heart burst and she died. My love, it was but a dream. Yes, she said, it was a dream. And then, she said, and then they chopped her up and put salt on her, and they were about to cook her. But then they saw the gold ring on her finger, and they chopped off the finger, and poof, that finger flew through the air, and it landed in the corner. And with that, she lifted up her hands, and there was the finger with the ring upon it. By this time, the bridegroom had leapt to his feet. His face was pale, it went whiter, and then he began to run. But everyone was ready, and they restrained him and bound him and turned him over to the authorities. And in due course, he was executed, and all his band of robbers as well.